Welcome to the third video in our outdoor dining table series. This will be the final video. We will finish the base and put it together. First step today is to cut the tenons into the ends of the 45-degree brace pieces. So I've marked out the tenon on the board. They will be 1 inch deep and they will be set at 90 degrees to the 45-degree angle. Kind of confusing speech, but basically it's like putting a straight tenon, but it's at 45 degrees. So the first thing I need to do is arrange for the depth of my cut. And I'm going to set the depth of the blade equal to the side remaining space on the top member where I cut in the mortise. That should give me the depth I need so that the tenon should slide in. I'm using a 48 tooth blade. I don't have a crosscut blade, but I just use this. This is a general purpose blade. It works very well. So I'm making the cut at 45 degrees on that side. I'm going to flip the piece over to do the other end. Now, once I've done this, I'm going to get the other 7 pieces and do the same thing, keeping my settings the same. To do the opposite side, I need to actually swing the guide around, as you can see, the other way to cut the shoulder on the other side. And again, I'll flip it over, do the opposite side, and then do the same thing on the other 7 boards. So there, our shoulders for that side are done. The next piece that we need to cut is we need to angle the blade at 45 degrees, set the miter gauge for 90, line up the slot, and then cut the sides. So those have to be cut at 45 with the blade at 90 degrees. And again, we can only do one side with the blade this way. To do the other side, we have to put the fence on the other side of the blade because it's a left tilt blade. And now we've got a nice shoulder ready to go. For the actual tenon itself, because it's on an angle, it's more difficult to do with the bandsaw, so we're going to do it with a dado stack. So I've set up my dado stack to be about 1/2 inch wide. I've set the fence at 1 inch, set my miter gauge to 45 degrees, and now I'm going to slowly bring the piece up to the fence and take out the cheeks. I'm going to flip it over, do the other side. Again, this is going to require a couple of passes because we have to do half of them with the miter gauge one way and then half with the miter gauge the other way. So again, we're going to do this on all 8 pieces to trim that tenon down close to where it's going to fit into the mortise. We don't want to be all the way there as usual. A little bit thicker. It's much easier to pare off the overage than to try to shim it later on and to fill any gaps that get left behind. But there it is. There is the tenon. And now we're just fitting them using planes and sandpaper. Get that to fit nice and snug with no gaps. And what I'm also doing is I'm marking each one so that I put them back in the exact same place where I fitted them. There could be variants. There shouldn't be any variances, but there could be. And there is one of the one of the side pieces all mocked up. It's not glued up yet, but I've assembled it and make sure the fit is good. Now what I need to do is we've got these adjustable feet that we're going to put under the table. That way the wood doesn't rest on the patio or the deck, allowing water to get into the legs at the bottom more easily. So what we're doing is we're installing these. These are stainless steel feet. We've got to drill a hole to accommodate the length of the screw, which we've done here. And then we're just going to, when the table's ready to go, we're going to bang in the T-nut and then adjust the feet. It's going to help us level the table as well. At this point now, we need to cut a mortise for the lower brace. There's going to be a brace, a stretcher, across the bottom between the two X braces. So we've got two of the uprights. We're lining up the mortise, and as we've done in the past, we're going to cut a mortise in each leg. This mortise is 1.5 inches deep. Doesn't go all the way through. I didn't think it would fit to have a decorative mortise that, you know, poke through and for this, but we do the same as we did before. Reverse it to center the mortise, and we do that on both legs. On the top pieces, we need to cut notches for some cross members that we have, and so we've got to make sure that goes half the depth and the entire width of the cross piece, which is 2 inches. So I'm just figuring out where those are going to go. I want them to be underneath the center point of one of the boards. That way I can screw those pieces into the board, and it'll be screwed in the center, so the board will be able to expand and contract around it. So I'm going to line them up so that the inside edge is lined up with the center of where the second board is coming in. The reason it's the inner edge is I'm going to use pocket screws on the inside edge. So those pocket screws need to go into the center of the board. You always have to think about wood movement. I've marked where they're going to, how deep they're going to go, and now I'm marking each one for the cuts. These are the cross pieces. They need to also be cut with a notch, and the notches will fit over each other, and it makes a really snug fit. And it's critical that both pieces have their notches set in the same place. And we're actually having a 31-inch distance between the insides of the legs. This was set, the table is 66 inches long. It's so that we can have enough seating at the edge of the table to pull a chair underneath without knocking your legs into the sides. So now I'm using a jigsaw to cut out the base, to rough cut those notches. We'll tweak them later with rasps and files, but we want to get it cut out to the base. And the jigsaw is probably the best tool for this. They're too big to get into the bandsaw. Now what I'm going to do before we assemble the sides is I'm going to finish sand the inside of all the members that are going to make up that X. It's going to be very difficult to get in there with, even by hand sanding, to get into all the corners once you get the piece assembled. So we're going to sand all the inside surfaces that we won't be able to get to when it's assembled. Starting with 80 grit to 120 to 180, and that's it. 180 is all you really need to get to for a piece like this. Now we're making the tenons in the end of the stretcher. Same way we've done tenons for everything else. We're cutting the cheeks, then cutting them out on the bandsaw. Just putting a round over on all the pieces. You can do this by hand. I like to use a small round over bit, either a 1/4 inch or 1/8, just enough to break the edges so that you don't have a sharp edge where the finish could get knocked off. I'm just using my saw rasp to tweak the notches so that the pieces will fit. We want it to sit flush and even with the cross piece so that the tabletop sits flat on it. You'll see drilled holes in the top. That was my oops. I had marked the top and drilled the holes in them instead of the bottom first, so no harm. It's not going to be seen. I've driven dowels into the mortise and tenon joints to give them a little extra strength. These are mahogany dowels. And I'm using a playing card to set a little space as I cut off the dowels. I've got a flush cut saw, but it still seems to mar the wood. So I use a playing card just to give me a little distance, and it'll easily be sanded off. We have finished the top while we're building the base. The top is 3 coats of spar polyurethane. No stain. The mahogany itself is just beautiful on its own, and the spar varnish will give it a long wearing surface outdoors where this table is going to be, although we will cover it in bad weather just to make sure it holds up a little longer. But nice job. And now we've got everything assembled. I'm going to screw the cross pieces in. I didn't video making the pocket hole screw holes, but you can see pocket holes in the side rails. There are pocket holes in the cross braces that are lined up to be at the center of each board. So we will screw the base to the top, but not only in the center of the boards. So here I'm just driving some screws in to hold those cross pieces in place, and we will finish the base, which I did not video either, and now it's time to put the table together. So I've set it upside down on sawhorses where it's going to go because I couldn't get the assembled table out the door, and I'm just driving in outdoor pocket screws into the pockets I drilled in the sides, and the table is complete. Thank you for watching. If you like this, please like and subscribe. I'll have more videos coming up.